Section 3. You will hear two marketing students, Maggie and Mike, talking to their teacher about a seminar presentation that they are preparing. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 24.
So, you two are going to give a presentation next week about the beauty industry, aren't you?
Yeah, we've divided it into two sections. First we'll be looking at the place of the beauty industry in the economy.
Yeah, and then we were going to look at what drives it, as well as some recent trends.
That sounds like a good way of doing it. OK, Mike, how are you going to be starting off?
Well, first we were amazed at the size of the industry. It's measured in billions, not millions. It's worth $160 billion a year globally.
That figure includes products for hair care. They're worth $38 billion alone. Then there's makeup and perfume. I think that's $15 billion. Plus cosmetic surgery, skincare products, diet pills and health clubs.
In America, more money is spent on beauty than on education.
Really?
Yeah. The profits of the leading company in the industry have been growing by 14% a year for the last 13 years. And the industry as a whole has been growing at a rate of 7% a year. In India, sales of anti-aging creams are growing by 40% a year. And you know the Avon ladies? Well, there are 900,000 of them in Brazil, which is more than the number of people in its navy and army.
Amazing. Now, just going back a bit, you mentioned cosmetic surgery. Do you have any data on that?
Yeah, it's worth $20 billion a year now, and the number of procedures they do in the US has jumped by more than 220% since 1997. Botox injections to remove wrinkles are the main thing done these days. But nose jobs and fat removal are still very common. And there's been a real boom in teeth whitening. Also, because the cost of cosmetic surgery has really come down, a lot more people can afford it now.
And do you know much about the history of the industry?
Well, the modern beauty industry really started up about 100 years ago. When photography became widespread, it became much easier for the public to see idealised standards of beauty, and people wanted to buy the products to make themselves look like the models they saw in magazines. By the middle of the century, scientific advances led to changes in the ingredients used in many cosmetics, which made them more affordable, and packaging made them more attractive.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Now, in the second part of your presentation, you're going to be looking at why people buy the products.
Yes, that's right. This area is a bit more subjective, and Mike and I disagreed on a few matters.
Well, marketing is a hit and miss affair, and it's true what they say, that only half of any marketing budget achieves the desired result.
I think that's an exaggeration, don't you? Anyway, there are powerful forces at work in the beauty industry because when it comes down to it, there's no avoiding the fact that it's all about image and that this industry is so successful because it preys on people's hopes and fears.
Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? It's only natural to try to look your best.
Well, the guy who founded Revlon called the whole business hope in a jar.
Did he? Well, that's a nice way of putting it.
We found a British study of 11,000 people which concluded that people who are less attractive earn less money.
And that was the case no matter whether they worked as secretaries, in sales, or as executives.
And why do you think that's the case?
Well, I reckon one reason is because attractive people have higher expectations and are less willing to put up with being treated badly.
Yeah, but there are plenty of good-looking people with low self-esteem who do let others walk all over them. I think what it comes down to is that people in general treat good-looking people well, and it starts young. Even 3-month-old babies smile longer at faces that adults find attractive.
So, who judges what's beautiful and what isn't?
We didn't really go into that, but it seems that perceptions of beauty are connected to health and fertility. In some places, people go for shiny hair. In other cultures, women use mascara to make their eyes look bigger and to give themselves a younger look. But a universal indicator of being young and healthy is to have clear skin.
And that's why so much money is made from skin cleansers, moisturisers, facial creams and so on.
Well, there are certainly plenty of tricks to this trade.
Yeah, and most of them aren't new tricks at all. I think I could make a link at this part of the presentation to what Mike was saying about the early 20th century, because there's a trend now in the beauty industry to go back to the approach they had a century ago, when they stressed a connection between beauty and health. They got women to have facials and do exercise classes. Now they aim at beauty, but also like people to be fit, not just thin.
Oh, come on. The industry just scares people into going on diets that can actually harm them. And most of those thin models aren't in good physical condition. They're just hungry.
You can't tell just by looking. Anyway, I'm not denying that image is important. In fact, beauty firms spend up to 25% of their turnover on advertising.
That's incredible.
Isn't it? And they put just 2 or 3% into research and development. By comparison, in the pharmaceutical industry, 15% of sales goes into research and development.
Well, it sounds like you've got the topic well covered. I'm sure the class will really enjoy your presentation.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4.